Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to review this turnable organizer tutorial I created. This was based on the design shared by Robin Lamb on my mini factory a few years back. She's a teacher and she has a video attached over here also really explaining everything, which is worth watching. Really greatly done, 3D printed and painted, really nice. The focus of my video here is mostly on organizing. You see over here, this will teach you basic shapes and how to position assemblies with great precision. So this is mostly focused on positioning. As you can understand, this is a movable part, so it's actually going to turn around. And also we need to position, as you can see. So it's a beginner level tutorial and using basic tools, so let's get started. So I already have open tutorial loaded, and I click start and I just go to basic things. So the first thing is we have a cylinder, and we just fill in the radius, which in this case it's 70 by 70, so it's the same, it's symmetrical on both sides, and the height is just 5, so this is the bottom piece, the turnable piece. So over here what we're going to do is we're going to color it, and sometimes the color depends on when you do it, what you can do next. Okay, while it's already selected, I can save a step and do it, but some other reasons why, you know, when we color, sometimes at the end and sometimes when you deal multiple pieces, it's worth doing it in the beginning. And now we're going to rename it. Instead of typing in, I'm just going to click next. So just renamed it over here, a turnable base. This is basically the base. And now I click on polygon and I select this polygon and I'm going to inset this. So instead of creating a separate cylinder, it's actually the way she has done it. I'm just going to show here the idea of making it 64.55. I think I followed the sizes she has, but instead of adding a cylinder, I just made it out of one piece. So I'm going to extrude that. It's kind of more in the concept of direct modeling instead of Boolean based modeling and stitching together stuff. So, but I'm following the same sizes, and we just extruding that. So I guess it's I like better topology in this way. So we created this as one piece and we saved the stitching later together with stitch and scoop. Okay, so now we're going to use another cylinder. In this case, we use the same radius. This is actually quite interesting to learn. So we can use the same radius as before. And so far they covered the entire thing, the same size. The height is 30. Okay, so it's basically like this, and the object is below, actually inside in it, the dark blue object we did before. And I'm positioning it on Y, so I'm lifting up the position so you can actually see it. So this at this point is just one object on top of the other. And actually, okay, I was mistaken, I'm doing the next part. Actually, yeah, this is all it is at this point. So we're just creating the second part, and we can use this later to cut out, so we'll see in a second. So I'm isolating this object, we're going to start working on it, and what we're going to do over here is we're going to select this, and this was actually the idea of Robin Lamb, the way she did it, which is actually a brilliant idea. And we move this up over here, just this one vertex, and we deselect it. So we have this basic shape over here, and now we're going to create what I was mistaken I already do. So we're going to do actually this radius a little bit less. We're going to make a 67 radius by 67, still symmetrical, both sides the same. And the height would be 50. Okay, and then the arc, this is where it becomes interesting. So the arc is, instead of 360, which we normally do, we're just setting the arc to 57. And this is also following the same thing that tutorial was doing. However, I'm going to do the alignment is where I'm going to do different. It may have been that at the time she did it, we didn't have then at that time these alignment tools that I'm going to use. But naturally, so we created this. So far, I'm following the same instructions, same thing. But now what alignment is, in the tutorial, if you watch what she did, she manually rotated and positioned that, which is quite tedious, and you have to have a good eye at positioning. Where I'm going to use more of a technical approach, and I think it's a new tool, so that's why, we didn't have it at that time. But what I'm going to do over here is, before doing that, there's also another thing that I'm doing. So we need to flatten this section over here. So again, she did more of a way of Boolean based modeling, where in the same way I said in the center that we moved up this piece. Over here also she added a cube and just subtracted it to cut it out. You'd stitch a cube, where I'm using more of a polygon editing approach, where I'm going to use chamfer over here, and I'm using the default, so just a chamfer over here, which is basically flattens this face over here, and we can turn on face mode. Okay, but the output here so far is still the same, but the positioning, this is where this becomes actually quite interesting. So I'm going to use the align tool, And the angle, this is definitely a new tool, wasn't available at that time, but this saves a lot of time, as you can see, because if you need to manually position that, you know, it's not everyone knows. I mean, everyone can do it. It's rotate, move. They're really simple tools, but to do it with precision, it's quite difficult to align it with precision. So this is what we're going to do over here. So what I'm going to do over here is the concept first, that I need to align this. I need to have something to align to something. So I'm not going to use, like, when you go position, you can align the center of one point to the center of another point, like object based, but this is more of line based, very aligned on detail, and also at the same time its angle, I need to rotate that. So I'm going to choose the edge over here. So I want to have this edge should be aligned to something. So first of all, what you see over here, this is actually going to be changed. So maybe eventually I'll redo the tutorial, and if you watch this video, you'll know what's changed. For now, what we have here is, if you select an edge, the same is going to be later when we select the reference edge. This is the origin edge. Now I can unset it. It's set, and I can unset that. But once this is set, there's only two options. You see the red dot shows you which point of the edge, because the edge basically could be long. It is long. It's not just a single point. But we're actually going to select a single point. You're not selecting a vertex, you're selecting an edge. But in this edge is a certain point that is going to align with a certain point on the other edge that we're going to do. So let me show you. I'll select the other edge, but at this point I'm going to draw. I don't have a very clear edge what to do, so I'm going to draw an edge. So I'm drawing it from here till here, the center point of this. And again, so what we have over here, this has a red dot, a point, and this has a dot, a point. So this is going to align to this. Now this is problematic in our case, because first of all, let's see what we have. So we have the option swap directions. It's turned off in the tutorial mode, but normally you can swap that. Swap would mean the line, the point will move over here, or if you swap this one, it will move over here. But in our case, we actually need to align the center of this edge to the center of this edge. This is basically what we're trying to do. So SelfCAD is going to change that, and instead of swap origin direction, this is a new tool, which kind of, I guess this is the programmer's way of describing this, but it's actually going to be changed now in a way of saying we have another tools, which is going to be to align the start or center or finish points. So you're going to have three options: start, finish, or center, and you're going to be able to align it much more. But it's good that I can explain it now, because now that you have it, you can learn how to calculate that actually. So what we have over here is, let's see what we're going to do. So I'm going to set the X, I'm going to set to 65. So why am I going to set this to 65? So the logic here is that this was 70. The radius of this was 70. The inset of this was 10. So I need to divide the 10 in half, which is basically 5, and then subtract 5 from the final result, which is 70, which leaves me at 65. So I'm going to make it to 65, and then I'm going to set the Y to 28. So why do I need to do that? Because you see this has this hump, this thing we moved up the vertex, but the line that I drew is from this bottom. So I need to move it up back, so it should stay on top. So it's 28, based on how much I moved it up. So this should be over here. And then Z should be 9, the same idea, because the chamfer over here, the way we cut off, we moved it 10 in each direction. So I need this to be moved away to give me a wall thickness of 1. And if I moved it by 10, I kind of gave this by 10, I need to offset it by 9 basically. So now offset this by 9, and now I finalize, click apply. So here's apply, click apply, and look what happened. This aligned here perfectly fine. It rotated, it left me this one thickness over here, and this aligned perfectly over here, moved away basically from the center point. It's moved away by 9. And again, this is really complicated and may not always be easy to calculate. So this is why this new feature that's going to be, start, finish, and stop will actually make it quite easy. But nonetheless, this is aligned with precision over here. And now what we're going to do here is we just need to copy here, and here I'm still following the same way they did it. I'm going to use the pivot point, and I'm going to make 4 copies. So pivot is the way I think other software call it, polar array or something like that. Some call it pivot. It's going to make a copy around the center point, and we're going to click copy. So you can see over here we made multiple copies, and now what we're going to do here is we're simply going to group them together. So all of these copies are grouped together, and I keep explaining the same thing in many tutorials before, that you can only group things that don't intersect. So these 5 pieces now, we have 4 copies in the original, we have 5 pieces in total, don't touch each other, so you can group them. Otherwise you need to do stitch and scoop union, because it'll make non-manifold. But if they don't touch, that's a best option to group. So now we're going to color this as well, and now SelfCAD maintains colors. So if we're going to cut this out now, let's see what's going to happen. If I'm going to do now simply to remove this, we got this beautiful cut over here, and look what we got. So we have the colors inside, it's cut, and it's yeah, that's basically design is perfect. Okay, so now we're going to do select both of them, and now what we're going to do here is stitch and scoop. So the goal here is, what we want to do is we want to cut out this hole. So this should be turnable, so it needs to be, you can turn it around, so we need to cut it out. So I'm going to use this tool, the original, the base, to cut out from this new, that we call, the name here is different, we haven't changed it yet, and we're going to cut from here, but I don't want to be removed. Usually when you use to cut, is you're going to select over here to cut this out, that object gets removed, and then it's being lost. So we're going to turn on this option, keep subtracted object, and now we're going to get both actually. So we have the cut, it's hard to see because it's covered, but it's actually, let's see, oh, he wants me to rename it to turnable. So I'm just going to click next to rename it, okay. Then I deselect this, so we have these 2 objects. And now we turn on vertex mode to select some vertices over here. And we're going to select basically every... Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to select a simple vertex to adjust. I need to adjust the top of this, but I don't know the exact location, the position, the height, because we simply move this up and cut out, and I don't know the position over here. So I need to select a single vertex and look up the position. This is actually hard to see. I mean, I know where it is, I can see it, but on the video for sure you cannot see it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to the preference, and the preference actually is opened in the tutorial mode. I can use it. We have something called helper size, and I'm going to increase it to large. So the helper size to large. Now if I increase it to large, it's still a little bit hard to see, but I know it's here. It's a single vertex. But I can finalize it. It's hard to see because everything is large actually. But you can see here, we selected a simple vertex. And all I wanted to see is if you go to the move, turn on the move tool, you can just see the position where this is. It's 53.6. So all I'm doing now is actually deselecting it, okay? 53.6. I deselect this vertex now, turn off the vertex mode, and I select this object, deselect this object, and select this face, and I just type in the same value, 53.6. So this is basically showing you sometimes you cannot really calculate something because we did a cut here and I don't know exactly. So you can just look up vertices. And this actually, I think the original tutorial did something similar to look up something. But you can see over here what we did is we simply flattened this with exact surrounding over here. So now I'm deselecting the face mode. We have this aligned perfectly. And now we're going to start doing with the nut and screw, which is a little bit more surgical. We're going to start dealing with this stuff. So let's see what we're going to do. So I'm just gonna fill in here. It's, you know, all these default settings for the nut and screw, and I'm also checking the option. As you can see, it's already checked here, but there's an option to generate screw or generate nut. This is a single generator. It's called screw and nut generator, and you can use it for either or both. So if both are checked, it will create a nut and a screw together, and it created them small with the size to position here. As you can see, we have a nut and a screw positioned. And now, how do you attach this? How do you make this entire thing moving? So let's see how you do it. So it's both selected, so I deselect this and I select only the nut. And what we're going to do over here, we're going to hide away the nut while it's selected. So now I have left just with the screw. So the screw is actually quite simple. I take this screw and then I select this part, which is that we just flattened here, the same size, which is a turnable base, and plus the screw, and I go to stitch and scoop union, and I just stitch them together. So this is the easiest way, simple union. So now we have this bottom piece sticks out over here in this hole that we know this has a hole. We cut it out, but we have this sticking out over here, and this is a screw on top. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to hide this away. Now you can see actually the hole pursing through this one, and we know we have a screw, a piece, the bottom piece, with a screw sticking out. So now we're going to have to attach the nut, make the nut work. So we're selecting this, and the problem we need to do with the nut here is, nut actually it's quite simple. You're simply going to screw it onto the screw, and that's it. It's quite simple as it goes. The problem here is that we need to have this closed. We don't want to have the screw sticking out or even visible. We want this to be a closed cap. So this is what we're going to do, make here some surgery. So we're going to select this polygon, and this actually becomes quite interesting. It's really simple if you get the concept. If not, it may look some strange. So I'm going to explain the concept and tell you think what's happening. So the idea here is, before I explain anything, before I show you what I do, is that we need to fill this gap completely filled, like completely closed. But if I close this, this has like edge here and edge here. So I need to make sure that it's actually closed and everything covered, and it stays manifold. You cannot have this. If I leave this edge here, just fill in this inside, this will be non-manifold because there's no thickness here to nothing. So what I'm going to do is I'm first going to delete this one. So I deleted this faces, and now we're going to go to edge mode. And in edge mode, what we're going to do here is we're going to loop select, and I'm going to select this loop, this edge over here and this edge. So we have this loop selected, you see over here, and I'm simply going to move it up slightly how thick I want this cap to be. So this originally was 63.85, so I make it to 65. It's not, anything specific calculated. It's slightly more than 1 centimeter, so it's basically just calculated. Now I'm turning on the backface coloring so you can see what's happening a little bit better, and you can see here that we have, this is the inside of the mesh, and this is the outside, and the inside over here is also considered outside. So we need to cover this and plus cover here, but it's a little bit messed up the way this looks like. So you're going to see we're going to clean this all up. So all I'm going to do is I need to first deselect, click in the grid to deselect the edges that I had selected, and now I'm going to go to fill polygon. So fill polygon is going to fill everything that needs to be filled. And the way fill polygon sees it, if these are a different height, if it would have been one height, it would be problematic. You can't fill two things together, but on the same height. But if this is a different height, it will fill this, and it will also fill the inside. But if it fills the inside, it will be problematic also the way the orientation works. So let's take a look. So I click fill polygon, it filled everything perfectly fine. And now I'm going to isolate this nut so you can see. So it looks from the outside perfect, but if you're going to rotate on this side, you see over here, it didn't understand the structure. So this is flipped. This looks like an outside. So this is where SelfCAD's flip normals works perfectly fine. On the first time, it shows you fixed normals, the correct orientation. If there is something not good, this function actually was copied from the way Blender does it, which the first try will just fix it. If you use again flip normals, it will flip everything inside out, and then again it will fix it back. So it's kind of the tool doubles down for two functions. It can manually flip something, like manually select a face and flip it. It could do it on the entire object, check if it's flipped and fix it. And if it's non-manifold, actually wouldn't be able to do it. Will give you an error non-manifold. Manually, you can always do it even if it's non-manifold. But then you can flip everything and it can fix. Okay. So now what we're going to do here is, while I have it selected here, we actually also going to color it. And now we're going to show all objects. Turn off the edge mode, I guess. Select, what is it telling me to do? Oh, I need to rename it to base. So, and that's basically it. So the renaming actually doesn't need to select it. So you can actually just type in rename it, and I see, you see it. You can rename it without selecting it. So it didn't ask me just to type in base. But nonetheless, this is completed. So what you've seen over here is what we did is we created using basic shapes. This main piece we used inset and extrusion instead of making a second piece, which gives a much cleaner topology. We cut out and keep subtracted object, so we can use the same object to cut, but also while keeping it. We added a screw simply glued on. We added a nut, and we played with the faces over here and flip normals, make sure kind of we get this enclosed, closed top of the nut. We could have done the same thing using Boolean, add a separate piece and stitch it together, but it's good to learn the basic idea how you can work surgically on objects. And we moved this up, cut out pieces, and used the align tool to perfectly align, which is calculated the position while we still have what we have. But as I said, it will become much easier once you have the settings for simply align center to center. Anyways, I hope you've learned something new. Please let me know in the comments. If you want me to show anything else, please subscribe, like it, and share it. And thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.